Hi, this is the AQA Summer 2017 GCSE Mathematics Higher Paper 3 exam paper. Question 1. We have two vectors A and B. A is -4, -1 and B is 3, -1. We need to circle the vector 2A plus B. So we want to do 2 times the top component of our vector, which is going to be, we'll do it over here, so we're going to have -8 plus the top component of our b, which is 3, and then we're going to have 2 times this -1, which is -2, plus this -1 over here, which is going to give us that there, and that's going to be -8 plus 3, which is -5, -2 plus -1, which is -3. So it's going to be this vector over here. Question 2. Which of these values of n makes 2.7 times 10 to the n a cube number? So in order for this to be a cube number, I need to be able to write it in the form as an integer times by itself times by itself. So I think the integer is going to be 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 gives me 27. So I want this to be 27, in which case n needs to be 1. So 2.7 times 10 to the power of 1, which is the same as 2.7 times 10, that gives me 27, and 27 is a cube number. Question 3. Rearrange 2x is equal to y over w to make w the subject. So if I do it over here, we've got 2x is equal to y over w. So if I start by multiplying both sides by w, and I'm going to have 2xw is equal to, and that's just going to be y. So if I want to make x the subject, I need to, if I want to make w the subject, I want to divide by 2x. So do that to both sides, so that's just going to be w over here, and that's going to be y over 2x. So we've got w is equal to y over 2x, and it's going to be that one there. Question 4. Work out the bearing of C from A, and then circle our answer. So we want the bearing of C from A. So from A, I'm going to be facing north. You can see it's already marked there, north. And I want to turn in a clockwise direction until I am facing C. So if I turn in a clockwise direction until I'm facing C, I want to turn through this angle here, which is going to be the sum of 130 degrees and 80 degrees, which is 210 degrees. So the bearing is going to be 210 degrees. Question 5. A coin lands on tails 200 times. The relative frequency of tails is 0.4. We need to work out the number of times the coin was thrown. So if the relative frequency is 0.4, I know that the number of times that it hits tails, which is 200, divided by the total number of trials. Well, that's what I'm trying to find. So we don't know what that is, so we're going to call that n. I know that 200 divided by the number of trials is going to be the relative frequency, which is 0.4. So in order to work out what n is, I can multiply both sides by n first of all. So I've got 200 is equal to 0.4 n, and then I need to divide by 0.4, and that tells me that 200 divided by 0.4 is equal to n, and using my calculator, 200 divided by 0.4, and that tells me that n is equal to 500. Right over here, n is equal to 500. Okay, and that makes sense because 500 times by 0.4 is in fact 200. Question 6. How are the whole number solutions to A and B different? For A, we want to solve 3x is greater than or equal to 3 but less than 18. And for B, we're going to solve 3x is greater than 3 but less than or equal to 18. So first of all, let's deal with the A. In order to solve this, I'm going to divide everything by 3, which means that x is going to be greater than or equal to 1, but less than 18 divided by 3, which is 6. And for b, we're going to have x is greater than 1, but less than or equal to 6. Okay, and then for a now, I'm going to list all the values that x can take, because we're only looking for whole number solutions. So x can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, 4, 5, but it can't be 6 because this is a strict inequality. So it's not including 6. And for b, well, our strict inequality is going to be here where x is greater than 1, so we can't actually include 1, but we can include 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can include 6. So these are the different sets of solutions we get for A and B. Okay, question 7. The length of a pipe is 6 meters to the nearest meter. We need to complete the error interval for the length of the pipe. So if it's 6 meters to the nearest meter, that means that it has to be greater than or equal to 5.5 meters, but less than 6.5 meters. Anything between this range would round to 6 meters to the nearest meter. Part B says the length of a pipe is 4 meters to the nearest meter. Ollie says the total length of the two pipes is 11 meters to the nearest meter. We need to give an example to show that he could be correct. So first of all, if it's 4 meters to the nearest meter, that means that our length, write it over here, has got to be greater than or equal to 3.5 meters, but less than 4.5 meters, because everything in this range would round to 4 meters. So the total length of the two pipes is 11 meters to the nearest meter. Well, an example might be if I use 6.4 from here and 4.4 from here. Okay, they both of these numbers fall within the ranges here, and 6.4 plus 4.4 does give me 10.8, and 10.8 does round to 11 meters to the nearest meter. So that is an example to show that he should be correct, that he could be correct. Okay, question 8. This shape is made from 2 triangles and 4 congruent parallelograms. So congruent parallelograms means that they're exactly the same size and shape as one another and contain the same angles. For each statement, we need to tick the correct box. The triangles are equilateral. So are the side lengths of each of these triangles the same? Now, because the parallelograms are congruent, that means that this length and this length has to be the same as each other. However, this length doesn't have to be the same. It's not being governed by anything. So I think that this has to be an isosceles triangle, but not necessarily an equilateral triangle. It could be an equilateral triangle, but it's not necessarily one. So we're going to say that that could be true. Okay, part B says the triangles are congruent to each other. So we're saying the shape of this one is the same as the shape of this one. Now, because in this parallelogram, this angle and this angle are going to be the same as each other, and this angle and this angle are going to be the same as those as well, which means that this angle and this angle is going to be the same as each other. So, because this is an isosceles triangle, those two angles are going to be the same, those two angles are going to be the same, so this triangle and this triangle must be congruent to one another. So that must be true. They're going to be the same size and contain the same angles as one another. Okay, question 9. There are 720 boys and 700 girls in a school. The probability that a boy chosen at random studies French is 2/3. The probability that a girl chosen at random studies French is 3/5. We need to work out the number of students in the school who study French. So I need to work out what 2/3 of 720 is. So we're going to do 2/3 of 720. And to work out the total number of students who study French, we also need to do 3/5 of 700, because the probability of a girl choosing French is 3/5. So we're going to add to that 3/5 times 700. So we're going to add that on. So using my calculator, we've got 2/3 times 720. That gives me 480. And I've got 3/5 times 700. That gives me 420. And then I've got 480 plus 420, and that's going to give me 900. So the total number of students who study French is going to be 900. 480 boys and 420 girls. Okay, 9b says, work out the probability that a student chosen at random from the whole school does not study French. Well, in total, we've got 700 plus 720 students in the whole school, so that's 1,420 students in the whole school. And we want to know the probability that they don't study French. Well, 900 do, so that means that 520, or 1,420 take away 900, which is 520, don't study French. So the probability that they don't study French is going to be 520 divided by 1,420. And using my calculator, that gives us 2671. Question 10. AB, CD and EF are straight lines. Ava assumes that AB and CD are parallel to one another. What answer should she get for the size of angle Y over here? Okay, so if these two lines are parallel to one another, that means that this angle and this angle have to be corresponding angles, which means that they're going to be equal to one another. And because they both contain they both contain the letter X as an unknown, we should be able to solve what X is using these two angles, because I know that 2x plus 10 must be equal to 3x take away 20. So I can solve this then by saying, well, if I subtract 2x from both sides, that's going to be 10 is equal to x take away 20. I can then add 20 to both sides, and that tells me that 30 is equal to x, or x is equal to 30. Okay, so now I know that x is 30. I know that this angle here is going to be 2 times 30 plus 10, which is 60, plus 10, which is 70. And I also know this angle here is going to be 3 times 30, which is 90, take away 20, which is 70. Okay, so we wanted them to be equal to each other, and when x is 30, they are equal to each other. So they're 70 degrees. So y, which is what we're trying to find, well, because this is a straight line over here, and that's 70 degrees, the total of those two angles has to be 180. So this part of the angle must be, or y must be 180 take away 70. So y must be 110 degrees. Okay, part B. In fact, AB and CD are not parallel, and we're being told that angle W is 60 degrees. So we're being told this angle here is 60 degrees. So let's mark this in a different color. Okay, so let's get rid of these now, because these aren't 70 anymore. And if that's 60 degrees there, this angle here is vertically opposite. So this angle here must also be 60 degrees. So that means that 2x plus 10 must be equal to 60, which means that we subtract 10 from both sides, 2x is equal to 50 degrees, and I can divide by 2, and that tells me that x is equal to 25 degrees. Okay, so 2 times 25 is 50, plus 10 gives me 60, so I'm happy that that's right. So if x is 25 degrees, then this angle here, well, that's going to be 3 times 25 take away 20. And 3 times 25 take away 20 is 75 take away 20, which is 55 degrees. So if we work this one out to be 55 degrees. Okay, and if that's 55 degrees, then y is going to be equal to 180 take away 55. And 180 take away 55 is going to be 125 degrees. So we've worked out that y is in fact going to be, well, it was 110, it's now 125, so it is going to be bigger. Y is going to be bigger.